Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Stand Up for Jehovah. Today I'm going to talk to you about demons. This had a massive influence, I think possibly the biggest influence, and it still does influence me today because I am still utterly terrified of everything. When I was a kid, I was really scared of the dark, and everything frightened me. And I think going to 3 meetings a week and being told about demons perpetually probably didn't help. The thing about demons was they were out to get us. They had everyone else. Everyone else in the world belonged to them. We were the last bastions between demon domination and Jehovah's kingdom. And it was a bit of a heavy duty for a young child to bear. And I knew that we had to stand firm and we had to oppose the demons, and we had to make sure that we didn't invite them into our house by all sorts of bizarre ways. Has somebody given you a present? Somebody who's not a witness? Have you bought something second hand? Have you got music that debases? There were so many ways the demons would come into your house, but always attached to a bowl or a second-hand spoon or some piece of crap that you'd bought from a charity shop. Puzzling. If I was a demon, I wouldn't be hanging around in the charity shops. I'd be down Harrods hanging around in the expensive stuff. I mean, you know, these guys are big. They can flip between heaven and earth and they can do all kinds of things, or they can't flip between heaven anymore, can they? Oh, God kicked him out. Jesus kicked him out. Somebody kicked him out. I loved those pictures of demons being kicked out. They were generally quite good looking, weren't they? I quite fancied demons, actually, in a strange sort of way. I didn't want to, get to know one intimately, but I was always a little bit jealous of those people in the time when the Nephilim were born. You know, the demons looked down and saw the daughters of men. Oh, I was thinking, oh God, I wonder if they would have liked me. Would I have been pretty enough? And then they trapped off with them, didn't they? And they were like at it like rabbits. And then it was all going swimmingly fun until they had these enormous children. And that was a bit of a pisser. Because then the demons thought, oh God, can I be bothered to stick around and discipline this humongous child I've had? I'll just fuck off and leave the woman to deal with it. Much like today, really, with a lot of single parents, innit? Demons, men. Anyway, I just sometimes wonder if I've copulated with a demon, because you'll have seen my little boy on one of my other videos that he face-bombed. And he's quite a big lad. He's only 6 and he's going to be enormous. He's like rugby-sized. And a little bit of me wonders, oh, did a demon find me attractive? We'll never know, will we? Joking aside, I knew that demons existed, and I got 2 really specific evidences of this. And one was when I was a kid, I went out on field service with a circuit overseer, and I must have asked him about demons. And he explained to me that yes, demons did exist and that they were specifically targeting us as Jehovah's people. And his example was that he'd been working up a ladder once and a demon had pushed him off the ladder. Yeah. The other evidence I've got is that we had a sister in our congregation called Auntie Susan, and Auntie Susan had trouble with the demons. Now, as much as I take the piss out of everything, this is truly sad, because what I found out when I was growing up was that Auntie Susan just suffered with a bit of depression. But at the time in the 70s, it was just common knowledge, even among children like me, who would have been 6 or 7, that she had trouble with demons. And that's a terrible, terrible thing to say about someone who's probably just suffering depression. And I think even Auntie Susan acknowledged that she had trouble with demons. So the demons were there and they were out to get us, and they hid a lot in second-hand stuff. And that was a huge problem for my family because we were piss poor. We were as poor as the poorest piss that you could imagine. We lived in this little cottage that had no kitchen and no bathroom and no heating other than an open fire. And it was the bathroom bit that caused the problem, because what we did have was an outside toilet round the side and the back of the house down a ginnel. A ginnel is something that you have up north, and it's generally full of demons. And our ginnel was definitely riddled with demons. And so when I wanted to go for a wee as a kid, I used to have to pluck up my courage for about 40 minutes and then run as fast as my little legs would carry me, hurl myself down the ginnel, fight my way through the demons, sit on the toilet, do my business, and then wait another 30 or 40 minutes until I'd plucked up the courage to do the reverse journey. This was a real problem because obviously you need to wee quite often, don't you, as a kid? But I did find a solution to this awful problem, and that was pissing in front of the house. We had a little 2-foot stretch of grass that just fronted our little house. And my poor mum used to put a few pot plants in there. And she did say to me years later that she could never understand why those plants never grew. And the truth was, brothers and sisters, it was the demons stopping the plants grow. Well, not quite the demons. It was the demons stopping me using the toilet and making me piss on the plants that stopped them grow. But essentially, it was the demons. The worst thing that ever happened, demon-related, was that talk, music that debases. That hit me right in the middle of my teens, just when I was probably getting interested in music, just when there was something that a Christian could do that was a little bit enjoyable, listening to your own music. And then that talk came and it took it all away from us. Every group that you ever liked or loved, you weren't allowed to listen to anymore. And we came home from that assembly with heavy hearts, at least my heart was heavy, and I had to get rid of every album that I'd ever loved. Here's what I had to get rid of. I had to get rid of ELO because they'd done an album called Secret Messages. Not that secret, given that it was the title of the album and the title of the main song. But anyway, Secret Messages meant that it had secret messages in it, which were clearly from demons, because Jehovah never puts secret messages in albums, does he? No. So I had to get rid of every ELO album I'd had. I also had to get rid of every Queen album I'd had, because they had a song that if you played it backwards, this was in the days of albums, so playing it backwards meant putting your finger on the disc and rolling it the other way around the needle. But if you did that, it said, I like to smoke marijuana, I like to smoke marijuana. Now, that never induced me to want to smoke marijuana, and even if it had have done, being a really good witness, I would have struggled to know where to go and buy marijuana. I can just imagine myself thinking, getting this sudden urge, like, oh, holy crap, I've got to go and smoke some marijuana. I'll just put my field service clothes on and see if I can find a worldly person. Excuse me, do you happen to sell marijuana? I'd really quite like to smoke some. Can't see it happening, can you? So anyway, I had to get rid of every Queen album I had. We had to get rid of all the obvious ones as well. Do you remember the Meatloaf album with the naked lady on the motorbike? That bastard had to go. My cousin's wife found a way around that. She did a big felt tip t-shirt over that lady's tits, and she was allowed to keep it. But the rest of us weren't as cunning. We just had to get rid of it. You had to get rid of any Led Zepp you had, didn't you? And any Kiss. Oh, big clue there. Knights in Satan's Service. Again, if you were really going to try and debase people, would you really flag yourself up with such an obvious title as that? The makeup was pretty cool though, wasn't it? But anyway, all that had to go. What I couldn't understand was, how come Mozart or Frank Sinatra weren't demonised? How come they weren't riddled with demons that with backtracking in their bloody classical music? So my dad got to keep all his shit, and I had to get rid of all mine. It didn't seem right. In fact, it boiled down to this. An old elder in our congregation gave a talk about music, following on from the music that debases. And this was his example of innocent music that was okay to listen to. He said when he was a kid there was a song that went like this: Maisie dotes and Maisie dotes and dozy dotes and little lambsy divey. And we were allowed to listen to that, because if you sang it quick enough it said, mares eat oats and does eat oats and little lambs eat ivy. So I was allowed that, and I was allowed Kingdom Messages, and everything else was out because of the demons. Now, the demons had a big impact on me leaving the Witnesses, because they actually stopped me leaving for a long time, because I was genuinely frightened that if I left, I wouldn't have the right to call on the name of Jehovah, and that was the only way you could get rid of demons, couldn't you? We didn't have our own, what do they do in churches? They come round and do that thing, don't they, where they get rid of all the demons. We didn't have a demon getting rid of service, which I'm surprised, because we were apparently riddled with them, like the churches, so you couldn't do that thing. And so you just had to call on the name of Jehovah, which I did kind of every night in between trying to go to sleep and piss in the bed out of fear. Clutched my Bible. And I genuinely thought at the age of 32, when I left the Jehovah's Witnesses, well, I'm not allowed to call on the name of Jehovah now because I've just rejected him by shagging the whole of the Gloucester football team. And he's not gonna listen to me anymore. And I just thought, well, that's it. The demons are gonna like flood into the house, aren't they? They're gonna, every cup and spoon and picture and clock I've got, they're gonna be having parties in there every night, demonising me and making, I don't know what demonising did though. I'm not quite sure what it did. I had a vague idea that it made things float about, but beyond that, it was just so frightening. I couldn't even imagine what being demonised involved. But I knew it was going to happen to me as soon as I left. Anyway, I did leave, and the funny thing is, demons just never featured again in my life, ever. So maybe I was just so boring that they couldn't be arsed with me. Thank you for listening to another episode of Stand Up for Jehovah.